Imagine living in a society where the loudest voice is mistaken for the wisest, where virality is valued more than virtue, and where the applause of the crowd silences the quiet truth of the soul. You don't have to imagine. This is the world we live in today. We have unlimited access to knowledge, yet genuine wisdom feels like it's slipping away. How did we get here? Why does the modern age celebrate ignorance, reward mediocrity, and glorify superficiality, while pushing thinkers, philosophers, and truth seekers into the shadows? To answer this, we first need to understand what wisdom really is and what it is not. Wisdom is not raw intelligence. It's not having all the data or memorizing endless facts. As Socrates said long ago, the only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. True wisdom is born out of humility, an awareness of life's complexity, and a refusal to make shallow judgments. It is not loud, not showy. It's earned slowly, quietly, and lived out in practice. But our cultural values have shifted. Today, we don't honor depth. We crave speed. We don't revere the patient unfolding of understanding. We chase quick fixes, viral clips, and bite-sized slogans. Look at who society elevates. Influencers who thrive on controversy instead of contribution. Politicians who manipulate with oversimplifications. And celebrities who are rewarded for shock rather than substance. Being loud has become the same as being right, while being thoughtful is dismissed as irrelevant. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche warned that when people can no longer distinguish between truth and illusion, society begins to decay. That decay is visible all around us. Public conversation has devolved into shouting contests instead of thoughtful dialogue. Nuance is treated as weakness. Complexity is mocked. Ask yourself, when was the last time you saw a calm, intelligent discussion go viral? In the ancient world, wisdom was regarded as the highest virtue. The Greeks revered philosophy as love for wisdom. The Egyptians considered wisdom divine. In China, Confucius taught that cultivating moral clarity and inner harmony was essential to living well. Yet in today's culture, we claim to admire wisdom, but we do not reward it. Instead, we glorify entertainment over enlightenment. Carl Jung once observed, "Thinking is difficult. That's why most people judge." This captures our present condition perfectly. Thinking has been replaced with quick opinions. Learning has been replaced with endless scrolling. Dialogue has been replaced with arguments designed to win, not to understand. And this shift isn't just accidental. It's engineered. Social media algorithms prioritize outrage because rage generates clicks. Platforms reward quick emotional reactions, not reflection. Education systems, increasingly underfunded and standardized, produce workers trained to follow, not citizens trained to think critically. So, what happens when wisdom disappears? We become passive, we become distracted, we become easy to control. Philosopher Noam Chomsky pointed out that the best way to keep people obedient is not to silence them, but to carefully control the boundaries of acceptable thought. Within those boundaries, endless debate is allowed, but true freedom of mind is quietly taken away. Yet wisdom has not been destroyed. It has simply gone underground. It lives in forgotten books, in long conversations, in stillness and solitude. It lives in anyone willing to pause, to reflect, and to see beyond the noise. Wisdom may be hidden, but it is not gone. And if you choose to seek it, you may find that it has been waiting for you all along. In earlier times, the pursuit of wisdom wasn't a luxury. It was the foundation of life itself. People looked to philosophers, sages, and spiritual teachers, not just for knowledge, but for guidance on how to live. Plato's dialogues, Marcus Aurelius' meditations, and Lao Tzu's teachings weren't niche interests of scholars. They were cultural cornerstones. Wisdom was expected, respected, and seen as a virtue, essential to both the individual and society. Fast forward to today, and things look very different. We now live in what many call an attention economy, where your focus has become a commodity. Every platform, every app, every news outlet is designed to capture and hold your attention, often by hijacking your emotions. Outrage sells, shock spreads, distraction dominates. And in this environment, wisdom feels inconvenient. It slows everything down. It asks difficult questions, and it refuses to offer easy answers. So, instead of being nurtured, wisdom is quietly pushed aside, not through a grand conspiracy, but through countless small choices, through design, through habit, through culture. Stupidity becomes celebrated, not because people openly choose it, but because it's easier, faster, and more gratifying in the short term. True wisdom requires effort. It asks you to challenge your own assumptions, to reflect on uncomfortable truths, to live with uncertainty. But modern culture does not reward this. It rewards confidence, even when it's shallow. It rewards certainty, even when it's false. It rewards visibility, even when it's empty. Look at how society treats its heroes today. Scholars, philosophers, and thinkers rarely command the public stage. Instead, celebrities dominate discourse. Politicians are praised for sound bites, not for thoughtful solutions. Social media influencers gain authority through frequency and charisma, not depth or clarity. The underlying message is clear. Fame equals credibility. Loudness equals truth. And whoever can grab attention the fastest gets to shape the narrative. This cultural drift has real consequences. Philosopher Neil Postman warned in Amusing Ourselves to Death that the danger of modern society isn't just misinformation, but the trivialization of everything. He wrote that what we need is not more facts, but more meaningful ways to interpret them. Today, we are drowning in data, but starving for sense. We are overstimulated, but under-reflective. We are hyper-connected, yet deeply unanchored. What makes this even more troubling is how normalized it has become. Foolishness, once seen as dangerous or destructive, is now wrapped in humor and served as entertainment. When stupidity becomes funny, it becomes accepted. And once it's accepted, it becomes invisible. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." That observation explains much of what we see today. It is easier to laugh at nonsense than to sit in silence with our own thoughts. Easier to scroll endlessly than to reflect deeply, easier to consume distraction than to confront the truth of our inner emptiness. The tragedy is not just the loss of wisdom itself. It's the fact that many no longer even recognize its absence. We have learned to live without it, mistaking distraction for fulfillment and noise for meaning. And the more normalized this becomes, the harder it is to see what has been lost. The cost of this cultural shift is profound. Without wisdom, people become easier to manipulate, more reactive, more divided. Dialogue gives way to hostility. Reflection gives way to impulsiveness. And slowly, society fractures, not from external attack, but from within. Yet, even in this noise-filled age, the hunger for wisdom has not disappeared. It shows up in moments of emptiness, after hours of scrolling. It surfaces in quiet moments, in nature. It stirs when we feel that our lives are busy, yet strangely hollow. The soul still longs for something deeper, something real. The disappearance of wisdom is not just an intellectual issue. It is a crisis of meaning. When people stop seeking wisdom, they become vulnerable to manipulation, tribalism, and fragmentation. The result is a culture full of noise, conflict, and division, but empty of genuine understanding. Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who endured the horrors of the Holocaust, once wrote, "When a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure." Look around today, and you see exactly that: an obsession with entertainment, consumption, and constant stimulation. But beneath the surface lies an aching hunger for something deeper, something that pleasure alone cannot satisfy. Wisdom has always been the bridge between knowledge and meaning. It doesn't just tell us how to live, it helps us understand why. Yet wisdom is uncomfortable. It forces us to confront our illusions, our ignorance, and the chaos within ourselves. It asks us to face our shadow, that hidden side of the psyche most would rather ignore. Carl Jung warned us about this very danger. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. In other words, if we refuse to confront our inner blindness, we remain prisoners of it. Modern culture, with its endless distractions, makes this confrontation even harder. It is far easier to laugh at stupidity or immerse ourselves in shallow pleasures than to sit in silence with uncomfortable truths. The normalization of foolishness is not harmless. It reshapes how people think and behave. When stupidity is wrapped in humor and sold as entertainment, it becomes acceptable. When it becomes acceptable, it becomes invisible. And when it becomes invisible, it corrodes culture from the inside out. Consider how often deep thinking is dismissed with comments like, "You're overthinking," or "That's too deep," as if reflection were a flaw and complexity a burden. This subtle disdain for introspection is more than cultural. It is institutional. Schools reward memorization over imagination. Workplaces reward speed and productivity over thoughtful reflection. Social media rewards polarity over nuance. The systems we live in actively discourage the qualities that cultivate wisdom. And yet, the soul remembers. Even if buried, the human spirit still longs for depth. It whispers in the quiet moments when we realize our busyness has no real purpose. It stirs when we recognize that we are constantly connected but profoundly disconnected from ourselves. It surfaces when we experience beauty, silence, or loss, and sense, if only for a moment, that life must mean more than what we consume. This longing is proof that wisdom has not been destroyed. It has only been displaced, overshadowed by distraction. But ignoring it comes at a cost. For when wisdom dies, the soul becomes silent. And into that silence rushes emptiness, distraction, and noise. Jung's warning reminds us that refusing to confront this silence does not free us from it. It only makes us its prisoner. The more we avoid the depths within ourselves, the more easily we are carried away by the shallow currents of culture. And in that state, true wisdom is not just forgotten, it becomes nearly impossible to recognize. The collapse of wisdom in modern culture is not only social, it is spiritual. True wisdom has always carried a spiritual dimension, not confined to religion, but to something deeper, the recognition that life has meaning beyond material possessions, beyond temporary pleasures, beyond the endless chase for status. Wisdom is the capacity to see patterns in chaos, to ask not only how we live, but why. Yet, in an age consumed by materialism, such questions are often ridiculed. How often have you heard someone say, "Don't think too much," or "That's too deep," as though reflection itself were a weakness? This subtle contempt for depth has become institutionalized. Schools measure success by standardized tests. Workplaces value output over insight, and social media thrives on conflict rather than nuance. Complexity is penalized, while conformity is rewarded. Carl Jung warned of the danger. In this very shift, the greatest danger to humanity is not the evil in the world, but the millions who let it happen without reflection. When we abandon the effort to think deeply, we surrender to systems that prefer obedience over understanding. The less people reflect, the easier they are to control, by governments, by advertisers, by cultural trends. And so, wisdom isn't attacked outright. It's displaced. People are flooded with opinions, yet starved of perspective. They are taught what to think, but not how to think. They are distracted by stimulation rather than guided toward meaning. Over time, the ability to seek truth quietly fades, not because it is destroyed, but because it is forgotten. Consider how our culture treats authenticity. Even virtues like mindfulness or self-awareness have been commodified. Meditation, once a sacred practice of stillness, is repackaged as a productivity hack. Reading, once a path to insight, becomes a branding exercise for status. Even authenticity itself has become a marketing tool. In this way, what is sacred is diluted. What is profound is trivialized. And yet, beneath the noise, something stirs. The human spirit continues to hunger for clarity, for meaning, for wisdom. It shows itself in quiet dissatisfaction, after hours of scrolling. In the emptiness that lingers, even after moments of pleasure. In the subtle sense that life should be more than consumption. This hunger, though often silenced, never dies. Abraham Maslow described this as the need for self-actualization, the desire to become fully oneself. But such a journey cannot happen without wisdom. Knowledge alone will not do it. Success alone will not do it. Only wisdom can reconnect us with who we are, beneath the layers of distraction, fear, and ego. But wisdom is not easy. It demands courage, the courage to step away from the crowd, the courage to question what is popular, the courage to face truths that unsettle the ego. Jung reminded us that there is no coming to consciousness without pain, and this is why so many resist it. It is easier to hide in noise than to face silence. Easier to chase approval than to confront one's own shadow. Yet without that confrontation, we remain trapped. For when wisdom is forgotten, humanity loses not only clarity, but also freedom. A society that abandons wisdom is not simply misguided. It is spiritually empty, vulnerable to illusion, and unable to recognize its own blindness. To live wisely in today's world is to move against the current. Everything around us pushes toward speed, distraction, and noise. Yet wisdom thrives only in stillness, patience, and depth. It asks us to slow down, to look inward, to question what most people take for granted. But how can one begin? The first step is to protect your attention. What you allow into your mind becomes the architecture of your soul. If you treat your attention as disposable, others will use it for their gain. Guard it carefully. Read more than you scroll. Think more than you react. Reflect more than you post. The second step is to seek out silence. Wisdom rarely shouts. It whispers. And to hear it, you must create space, away from the constant hum of digital life. Sit in solitude. Walk without your phone. Let boredom return. For often, boredom is not emptiness, but the threshold of insight. Third, choose your influences with intention. Surround yourself with voices that challenge and elevate you, not those that keep you comfortable in ignorance. Wisdom is contagious, but so is stupidity. Decide which you want to absorb. Carl Jung once wrote, "Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." That is the essence of reclaiming wisdom. It is not found in endless consumption or in the applause of the crowd. It is found in the courage to look inward, to confront yourself honestly, and to live from that deeper truth. In the end, wisdom is not about having all the right answers. It is about asking better questions, about seeing life not as a race to win, but as a mystery to live. To be wise today is to resist the temptation of surface living and instead seek the depth that makes life meaningful. The modern world may glorify stupidity, but you don't have to participate. You can choose differently. You can live differently. You can think, reflect, and awaken. If this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Leave a comment with your thoughts, and let's create a space where depth is valued over noise, where wisdom is not forgotten, but remembered. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so we can continue exploring the truths that matter most. Because real change begins not out there, but in here, with you.